Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our November Superintendent's Webcast. I hope all of you have had an opportunity at some time in the last couple of days to get outside and enjoy this unusually warm fall weather. It's just beautiful outside. I had a few minutes to go out during the lunch hour and just cross my fingers that this holds on for a little while longer for us. Again, thank you for joining us. We know your time is very valuable, and so Tony, if I could ask you to pull up the PowerPoint and agenda, thanks. We do have a pretty full agenda for you today. We'll have updates from Tony, Kentucky Department of Education updates about what's been going on here at the department. We also have a presentation on the use of time survey for school-based mental health providers. We'll have another presentation by folks from our Office of Career and Technical Education on the state career and technical education funding distribution proposal. This is something we've been working on toward the next legislative session, and want to kind of preview this for you so you have an idea of what that's about. We'll have an update from our Chief Performance Officer, Karen Dodd, on the Kentucky United We Learn Council. And then, as always, we'll have an opportunity for you to send in questions via a Google form for answers to be provided either in real time or in writing back to you by our KDE leadership team. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll turn it over to Tony with our Kentucky Department of Education updates.
All right. Thank you, Interim Commissioner Kinney. Just a couple of updates and announcements for you all to be aware of today. I want to start with two really exciting announcements. Earlier this month, we were able to go with Commissioner Kinney and visit two of our schools to deliver some amazing news. Our first one was in Warren County. So congratulations to Shane Baker, a third grade teacher at Jennings Creek Elementary School. He was celebrated on October 26th as a Milken Family Foundation National Educator. So those of you who follow the Milken Family Foundation know that this comes with a $25,000 unrestricted cash prize. And it comes with a surprise ceremony at his school that included his students, the entire student body of the school, faculty district, and many other community leaders. Mr. Baker is an ed tech ambassador for the district and incorporates technology into his project-based learning curriculum, and is really wonderful to watch him interact with his kids. So congratulations to Shane Baker from Warren County Schools. Our first of two Milken educators back-to-back. We've never, as far as I know, never had two back-to-back. So the next day we visited Carter G. Woodson Academy in Fayette County. Congratulations to Jacob Ball. He is a 6th through 12th grade teacher, teaches agriculture at Carter G. Woodson, and he was celebrated on the 27th as the second Kentucky educator to be named a Milken educator this year. So really exciting news for us as we get to plan these ceremonies and certainly get to visit our schools and see these teachers in action. Mr. Ball grew up on his family's small farm in Nelson County and has really taken the agriculture projects and classroom and instruction to heart at Carter G. Woodson, and is doing some amazing things with that program at Carter G. Woodson in Fayette County. So super exciting to see that and to hear more about. We will be hearing more from both of those teachers, and both of their teachers will be at the December Kentucky Board of Education meeting to receive their official obelisk from the Milken Family Foundation. Nominations are now open for the 2025 Kentucky Teacher of the Year. Our current Teacher of the Year is Mandy Perez, and she will, from Crittenden County. She will conclude her term at the end of this year. And our 2024 Teacher of the Year is from Boone County. It's Mr. Kevin Daly. And we are already planning for 2025. So as you can see, we have opened our nominations already. They will be accepted until December 15th. Anyone can nominate any teacher in the Commonwealth. It's a very simple process. It takes about less than a minute, really. You just basically fill out the form and let us know why you think that they're a great teacher. and then we will take it from there. From there, after the nominations close, they'll receive an application, and the whole process begins. And that will begin after the first of the year. But we received a lot of nominations last year. We are hoping to receive nominations from every county. We've been able to do that every year. We know that there's outstanding teachers in every single county in the state, and we certainly hope that you take this opportunity to nominate someone that you think is deserving for this award. And then just to close with just an update on our commissioner search update, the Kentucky Board of Education voted to post a new request for proposals to identify a firm to lead the search for our commissioner during a special meeting that was held this past Monday. The evaluation committee members met on November 2nd to discuss bids. They received and determined it would not be in the best interest for the Commonwealth to award a contract as a result of the responses reviewed. The reposted RFP must be open for responses for a minimum of 7 business days, although a longer period of time is possible. Once that vendor is selected, the process of a contract can take up to 30 days. And I'm not sure if Interim Commissioner Kinney wants to add any more on this, but I believe our plan is still to try to have a interim or a commissioner in place as soon as possible. I know she's looking forward to that as well. And I think that we're hoping to get this RFP up sometime by the end of this soon, in the next couple weeks.
I'm really happy to say that we have already reposted the RFP, and so we're trying not to miss a beat. We're still keeping our eye toward identifying a search firm to help us before December or first part of December, and then we'll be well on our way. As a reminder, it took us about 8 months the last time to fill the commissioner's position. And so we are hoping to beat that if we can, but still upholding the integrity and fidelity of a process that provides to us a great commissioner for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So that's all I have to add, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And then I think this is my last one. Whoops, I went too far. Our working conditions survey is open, 2023-2024. Impact Kentucky working conditions. That began on November 1st. This is an opportunity for Kentucky teachers to make their voices heard about working conditions in their schools. The survey is providing schools with critical data that guides the implementation of processes and practices that can maximize teacher effectiveness and offer some improvement options. All schools have identified a survey coordinator from their faculty, and to participate, certified staff members should reach out to their survey coordinator in their school building to get the anonymous code that is required to take the survey. Panorama Education is the vendor that we are working with, and they will collect and analyze the results, and they are expected to be available to schools in late January of 2024, which is also around the time that we will make those results public to you and to every other stakeholder groups as well. And I will next toss over to Reagan Satterwhite and Tom Thompson in our Office of Career and Technical Education, who are going to talk with you a little bit about the funding distribution proposal for CTE. Take it away, guys.
Thank you, Tony, and you can go ahead and advance to the next slide for us. Tom and I are appreciative of the opportunity to share with you some exciting things that we have been working on truly for a decade in the Office of Career and Technical Education, long before I even came on board. And so we're getting the privilege of seeing a lot of this work that has been extensive and ongoing from a lot of people kind of come to fruition. We'll take you back to the 2022 Kentucky General Assembly, where they provided an increase of $58 million into what was known as the layback pot for local area vocational education centers. For the first time, we received an adequate amount of funding for CTE. Prior to that 2022 budget session, it was that only our area technology centers that were state operated and certain LAVEX that qualified and had made it through a wait list received state funding. With our $58 million increase that we received thanks to our General Assembly in the 2022 budget, every CTE program in the Commonwealth was able to be funded. So our biggest hurdle that we've been working towards, the adequacy of funding for career and technical education, had been accomplished. On paper, it looks like we were able to fund 96 schools previously, and we actually went to being able to fund over 315 schools, or all the schools in Kentucky that had programs, regardless of how many programs they had in their building. And so as we've worked towards the adequacy piece of CTE funding, other initiatives that we've been working towards have been to codify an equitable formula for all students. The goal, the main goal, and we actually think we need to make this a motto for our office. A welding student should be a welding student no matter where they're sitting in their welding course. It should not matter whether it's a locally operated program or a state operated center. So we have done a lot of work over the past several months with a committee, with a CTE advisory committee, a funding committee, with our General Assembly, with our friends in the Office of Legal Services and the Office of Finance and Operations, and have what we think is a great formula for the distribution of those funds to make progress towards the equitable piece. And so, Tony, if you'll advance to the next slide, please, we'll get into some details. Our goals in creating a new LAVEC distribution formula is first not to call it a LAVEC distribution formula any longer. Everyone should qualify for CTE funding at the state level, regardless of whether they meet that definition of a LAVEC, meaning they have to have 5 programs. So our first goal was to simplify it, and I'm actually getting farther down in the bullets, but we would just have going forward 2 types of career and technical education: locally operated career and technical education and state operated career and technical education. And from a funding perspective, we want them to be treated equally. And so the bullet number 1 is to create equity in the funding for those programs. The second piece of it is to ensure emphasis on high quality instructional resources and industry standard equipment for enhanced student learning and CTE pathways. We want this funding to be spent on the student so that their experience in their CTE pathway can be as high quality as possible. And we also want to incentivize schools that are doing the right things, that have high quality programs and are getting students career ready and working with our workforce and our business and industry partners in order to do so. So our funding formula proposal actually introduces it flirts with the idea of performance funding, but not all of it will be so. And then lastly, we'd like to ensure that we leverage our federal dollars and make sure that any programs that receive state funding don't leave any federal dollars on the table. So we're requiring that they must be Perkins eligible pathways. We have been working with our General Assembly. We anticipate seeing not only a Senate bill in the 2024 session, but also a House bill. A companion bill will be in the House that will, it doesn't ask for an amount of money. We're going to stay with what's in our base budget, but it asks that we reallocate the way we distribute the funding. And Tom's going to get into a little of the specifics. If you'll advance, please.
Yeah. So thinking about the goals that Reagan just shared with you, then did I hear someone ask a question? I'm sorry.
No, that was me. I was just letting you know I'm having a little bit of a delay, so I apologize. I'm trying to keep up.
Okay, no worries. So when you're thinking about the goals that Reagan just shared with you, what I'm going to share is hopefully that will align directly with those goals, and we seek feedback from anybody. You know, if you've got questions about it, make sure you reach out to our office and share any comments or questions as you think of them. So all the CTE pathways that are eligible for Perkins funding will receive CTE funding allocation. This includes state-operated area technology centers and locally operated centers, or any locally operated program. CTE funding will be calculated on a 60-40 split. 60% of the funding will be based on the school's allocation calculated on a weighted FTE value, and then 40% will be calculated based on the incentives. Incentive categories will be concentrators, technical skills attainment, work-based learning, and CTE dual credit. each student can earn up to 4 incentives for the school. And this is also taken into account if they go to 2 different schools. So if they're at the ATC, they can earn up to 4 for the ATC. And if they're in a, say, an ag pathway at their home high school, they can also earn it for that school in those 4 areas as well. Student outcomes will be monitored through an annual risk-based monitoring process. And to help schools better plan for and utilize the funds, it's our intent to get rid of or eliminate the mid-year adjustment so that they have the full year to plan instead of having the rug pulled out from under them, so to speak, mid-year. The initial allocations of these funds were to help bring programs up to industry standards in terms of materials and equipment. And we previously asked districts to direct the funds toward existing programs. But moving forward, there will be more flexibility as schools will be able to use the CTE funding for new programs. Districts will also be able to seek approval to use CTE funds for middle grades programming as well. Next slide, and I believe it's just a question slide. Perfect.
As Tom said, we really want to encourage you to reach out to somebody in our office, either Tom or myself or Dr. Hargis, if you have questions about our funding formula proposal. We have a one-pager of the proposal, so hopefully you didn't have to jot notes down too much that we will email to the superintendents. If you have any questions after you look over that, please get in contact with us as well.
Thank you all.
Thank you guys both. Appreciate the information there. Up next is Dr. Woods Tucker and Dr. Searcy. There they are. And go ahead.
Thanks, Tony. A special thanks to our superintendents who are on. I know that you are extremely busy. You have a lot of competing interests, but we certainly appreciate those of you who have filled out, and quite a few superintendents have already filled out the survey. I want to thank you all, and those of you who still need a little time, we want to give you a quick update on the survey and the importance of it. And again, we really appreciate and respect your time. Now, with that said, I'm going to ask Dr. Searcy to please walk us through the survey. As many of you probably know by now, Dr. Searcy is our program coordinator for comprehensive school counseling here at the Kentucky Department of Education in the Office of Teaching and Learning. Dr. Searcy.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you for time on today's agenda. Quickly, as Dr. Tucker mentioned, my name is Michelle, and I am the program coordinator for comprehensive school counseling, and I proudly serve in our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging department, where we work and we strive to make sure that each student and staff member in our Kentucky schools have a sense of belonging. We're going to talk a little bit today about the school-based mental health professional use of time survey. Tony, if you can go on and advance to the next slide. Our school-based mental health professional use of time survey is due by November 1st, and that's to ensure that we stay in compliance with our KRS 1584416. And what that means is we are asking each of our local superintendents to submit data that lets us know how many school-based mental health service providers that you have in your district, the position that they hold. So for example, a school-based mental health service provider can be a school counselor, a school psychologist, a school social worker, or a mental health counselor that is employed by the local school district. And that's a really important note to make, is that if you have mental health counselors that are on MOA with your district, or you collaborate with them from the community standpoint, those would not be counted in the survey. So these are employees of the local school district. We need to know the position that they held, their placement in the district. So what schools do they work at? Certification or their licensure, the source of funding, and a summary of their job duties and how much time they devote to each of those duties throughout the year. That is increasingly important because our legislation also mandates that our mental health professionals have to spend 60% of their time on direct student services. This is ensuring that our Kentucky students have that mental health and social emotional support that they need within our schools, and that they're also getting academic and career advising as well. If you can go on and progress to the next slide. So we have received a large number of surveys back from our superintendents. So as Dr. Tucker said, thank you so much for getting that in. We do have a number of districts that we're still missing. So on this top link, you will have the access to the survey where you're going to include all of that information that we just went over, and that is listed there for you on the survey. Once you have that completed, you're going to email it to our KDE Research Department. And if you have any technical questions or need assistance with completing your spreadsheet, please send those to Leslie McKinney. And if you have any questions regarding clarification or specifics about job duties, please feel free to reach out to me. We'd be happy to help you. And if there are any questions, we can take those. All right, Tony, we'll turn that back over to you. And if any questions do pop up, please feel free to reach out to us.
Okay, sounds good. So there may be some questions at the end. We usually reserve our questions at the end. So I'll check that form here in just a moment. Our next update for our superintendents comes from our Chief Performance Officer, Ms. Karen Dodd. Karen, are you available? I see she's logged in. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh.
she was having some internet issues. It was
Okay.
calling in from her phone.
Okay. I can. Do you want me to?
Let's see.
Tony, this is Meredith Brewer. I am happy to start the update, and hopefully Karen can join us if that will work.
That would be perfect. That would be perfect. All right, so go take it away, Dr. Brewer.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tony. So the Kentucky United We Learn Council had a wonderful convening last week. We are always excited to pull together the stakeholders from across the state for in-person time together to think about our vision and hopes for the future of education. We wanted to provide an update on the council makeup as we move into year 2 of this work. We currently have 55 active members. We do meet, as I said, twice a year in person, but the council structure allows for monthly meetings in specific committees that occur in between those in-person meetings. Currently, we have the outstanding Audrey Gilbert as our council chair, who is currently a freshman in college. And we have Penny Christian, who is our council vice chair, who is an extremely active parent and is very involved in Parent-Teacher Association. Per our bylaws, Penny will assume the role of council chair in March, and we will elect a new vice chair at that time. As I mentioned, we have 3 standing committees: Vibrant Learning Experiences, Accelerating Innovation, and Building a Bold New Future with Communities. Each committee has different objectives that they work toward that we bring forward to the full council for consideration before further action. Next slide, please.
Meredith, I'm here if you want me to take over.
Take it away, Karen.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. So we met for 2 days last week on Thursday and Friday. So I want to give you just a sample of or a look at what our agenda consisted of. First of all, we had share outs from each of those 3 committees. We wanted to hear exactly what the work was that has been done over the past year, and for each committee to hear that from the other. We also finalized our moonshot, or we worked toward finalizing the moonshot, which is the council's vision statement. We did some journey mapping. We asked people to think about the events or any of the work that they had done that really stood out to them over the past year. And we put that on butcher block paper and on a wall, and just asked them to reflect on all the different events and how they felt and how engaged were they during each of those events. That would come into play later on day 2. We ended day 1 with committee time. So all of our committee members told us that it can be difficult to engage on online on a regular basis, which is how they meet on a monthly basis. So we wanted to give them all a time to be together and really further the work that they were already working on. You can go to the next slide. On Friday, we got into working groups, and those working groups were based on the work that was done in the journey mapping. So wherever we saw that there was low engagement, we really wanted to figure out why that was. And so we, as a leadership team, at the end of day one, we really took a look at everything that was put up on the journey map and came up with what we thought were the best working groups. And then we had that verified the morning of day two. And so folks got into one of 6 different work groups for the rest of the day. After lunch, we had a 1-year celebration, and we asked people to put into basically a Wordle app some of the things that words or phrases that really resonate with them about the work over the past year. So I'm going to share that with you in just a moment. And then the working groups shared out, and we invited panelists, people from outside of the council, to come in and just listen to what the work is that we're doing, and then give us some of their reflections on what they were seeing and hearing. And you can go to the next slide, Tony. This is the Wordle, or it should be, there we go. This is the Wordle that we came up with, and I know those are really hard to see. Some of those are in different colors that probably you can't read real well, but collaboration, local accountability, L3 districts, productive struggle. These are all things that you see on here, and the more people put in the same word, the bigger those words get. I'm sure you all know how Wordle works. But it was really cool to have people put these things in. Things like empathy show up in here, co-creation. Those are some of our principles that we try to work by with everybody on the council. You can go to the next slide. So this is our moonshot. This is just a draft, but a year ago when we kicked off the United We Learn Council, at that time, Chair Lou Young, chair of the Kentucky Board of Education, gave us the challenge of coming up with a moonshot. What is it that we want to really change in education? And over the past year, the council members have really been learning about all of the things, all of the innovative things that are going on across Kentucky, but we never really came back to what is our vision? What is it that we're ultimately trying to create? And so over the year, that has created a little bit of confusion for folks, and really put our standing committees into some silos in some situations. So we thought it was really important that before we start year 2 of our work, that we really nail down what our vision is. And so here you see what they came up with is to build a prosperous Kentucky. We will launch an accountability system that is meaningful and useful to all of our learners. This is just a draft, but it was shared out. And in the coming week or 2, we are going to be sending this out to all of our members because not everyone was present. We want everyone to have a chance to look at it and then vote on whether to make this our final moonshot. You can go to the next slide, Tony. The virtual learning, VLE, virtual learning experiences, I'm sorry, vibrant learning experiences, they wanted to come up with a definition for what vibrant learning experiences really is. And so this, again, is a draft. They labeled it Learning That Matters to Students. And what they came up with is, in partnership with families and communities, students are agents of their own learning, engaged in relevant, authentic, and joyful learning opportunities. Vibrant learning honors students' cultural wealth, gifts, and interests. Vibrant learning cultivates in the application of knowledge and skills demonstrated through personalized products. So here again, this is a draft, and it will be sent out to all members to vote on this. And then we will let everybody know. We'll be getting some communication out once all of these things are finalized to let the broader audience know, all of our stakeholders know exactly what the work is that's going on here in the council, including these things that have been finalized. You can go to the next slide. We had 4 other work groups during day 2. Yeah. One is Portrait of a Learner. The question that they were asked is, what is the Kentucky United We Learn Council's role in supporting the implementation of Portraits of a Learner? And so we know that, for educators, it may seem pretty obvious, but a lot of the makeup of our council is families and community members and other advocates for education. So what role should they be playing in their schools, their districts' portrait of a learner? So that's really what they were tackling. It's at that community level, what role should we be playing? Another working group was engaging communities, and they were tackling how do we ensure diverse representation, which is critical to identifying strengths that serve all students well. So here again, it's not just about diversity on the council, but how do we reach out into the community and make sure that we are engaged with all the diverse folks within Kentucky so that everybody's hearing the message that we really are trying to improve education in Kentucky. Next slide, Tony. Our last 2 work groups, first of all, was Accelerating Innovation, System of Systems. This is one of our standing committees, and they felt strongly that they needed to move forward with the work that they have been doing over the past year. So they wanted to have at least a subset of their members work, but also to invite in members from the other 2 standing committees. And of course, their question is, how do we create an accountability system that includes local innovations through a menu of options? They talked about honoring students being at the very center of this system, and then streamlining state testing, local adaptability, supporting vibrant learning, and encouraging collaboration. The last working group that was there was for a council charter. Throughout the year, as things have come up, we've put some different things in place, like roles, defining roles for what should the chair do, what should the co-chair do, what's a member responsibility. We also have had discussions about how to vote and what an appropriate voting protocol should be. Do we have to be in person to approve things? Can we do it through email? So all those kinds of protocols that you deal with in any kind of a committee. So we've kind of been throwing them out there ad hoc and just seeing what sticks, I guess. But we felt that it was time to really pull all of that together and put it into a formal charter so that moving forward, we're very clear on all of the protocols that we have as a council. Next slide. All right, so here we have some comments that we had from some of our panelists that were there. The first one is from Representative James Tipton, and Representative Tipton is actually a member of the Cool Council. He is on the Bold New Future Committee. But we felt that it was important because, members always want to hear about or from the legislators. And so we did ask him to give his reflection on what he heard over these 2 days. He stated that take the time to develop those relationships, inform the policymakers, and inform people in your community, because that is going to be essential to coming up with a product that we, meaning the state legislators, can work with. We also heard from John Ballard, the Senate Majority Leadership Staff. His comment was that having that communication, especially at your local level with your legislators, is critical to any of these journeys. There are a lot of districts across the state that are craving to do work like this and just need a little push or a little help. We would encourage you to have that outreach across the state and to be the entity that folks can go to get help. Amanda Ellis was also present. She's with the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education. She commented that the importance of communication and clarity and to know what you are asking for. I say the same thing to the workforce in different industries. They have their own language and their own views. And so if we are not clear on how it fills into Kentucky's economy for prosperity, then you're not going to have the buy-in. And finally, Amanda Burrows, Central Kentucky Educational Co-op. I think that you are honoring unique student experiences. Every district is different and every school is different. So please keep that in mind as you do this work, but using those design principles, and she's referring to those that were established by the Accelerating Innovation Committee, as what our universal piece is to help continue to honor the differences and uniqueness in our districts is where this work needs to continue to go. I also want to point out that we did have Interim Commissioner Kinney there, as well as the chair and vice chair of our Board of Education, all of whom spoke and gave their support to this work moving forward. So even though leadership is changing in Kentucky, this work is still moving forward, and that was seen and demonstrated 100% during this time. Next slide, Tony. So we want to make sure that you're aware of where to go. If you want to learn more about the council, of course, you can always reach out to me. I'm the lead for this council for Kentucky, for KDE. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. But you can always go to the United We Learn logo on our main page. That will take you to the United We Learn page, where you can just see an overview of what United We Learn is all about. And then the top link there on the left-hand side will take you to the council's page. From there, you can get to each of the standing committees. And we have agendas, minutes, and recordings of every meeting that happens with all of those, all the standing committees and the council itself. So if you want to dig into it, you are more than welcome. There is plenty of information out there for you. On the next slide is just our next steps. So these standing committees and working groups are going to continue into year 2. Our leadership team is currently analyzing the responses that we received from the convening, and we will make any changes needed on the council based on that feedback. And we plan to have our next convening in April, and it will likely be in Frankfort again. We try to change it up and have it in different locations from time to time, but the feedback that we're getting from our members is that they really like having it in Frankfort. It seems to be pretty central to get more folks there. And I think that is my last slide. So back to you, Tony.
Muted myself there. Thanks, Karen. Appreciate the feedback and calling out what we did at the council. I will go ahead and bring back Interim Commissioner Kinney, and I will take a look at our Google form to see if we have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Tony. And thank you to all of our presenters that were on with us today, sharing really important information about things that are happening here at the Department of Education, which impact our school districts and our students. I'll wait and see if Tony has anything from our question series, but November is a time that traditionally we think of appreciation and Thanksgiving. And so if I can first of all thank each of you in your roles in your local school districts as superintendents and other staff that may be on with us today. Thank you for all that you do for Kentucky's children each and every day to improve their educational experience. And all that you do from a social, emotional, and support side for them. Thanksgiving is a time, of course, that we celebrate with friends and family, and so I hope you have some time to do that as well. And eat too much like I always do. It is a time that we can slow down for a few days, relax, and just appreciate each other. And additionally, November is a time that we observe Veterans Day. So a big thank you to all of our veterans out there currently serving in our armed forces, as well as those that have previously served, those that are here at the Department of Education, and those that are in each of your local school districts and schools that are continuing their service to us in a little different capacity. So please join me in thanking all of our veterans current and those that may have been retired in the service that they provide for the Commonwealth. Tony, let me see if we have any other questions.
I don't believe we received any questions.
Okay, so we're going to return just some valuable time to you. Thank you again for joining us, and have a very safe and well rest of the month, and enjoy your Thanksgiving. Thank you.